Um, please, as usual, can you give me a thumbs up? This evening, basically, we are going to look at something very critical. As we know, we have within the African continent, um, things has been happening within the last couple of weeks. We are dealing with coronavirus, and at the same time, we are dealing with issues as regards to our brothers and sisters in China. And this evening, I want to plunge into something that is very, very controversial. And before I do, I would ask every one of you, before you start disliking or doing anything to the video, take a listen, have a different worldview. This evening, I'm going to be presenting to us a different view from what we have been reading regarding the issues and the happenings in China. This view is a view that is canvassed by Femi Akomolafe. Femi Akomolafe. He is a Ghanaian, not only a Ghanaian, but a passionate pan-Africanist, a columnist for the Accra-based Daily Dispatch newspaper. My attention was drawn to this article by a fan of this channel, and I will need to give him some shout out actually, and George K. George K, I will say thank you very much for bringing my attention to this. I will say once again, thank you. Before I continue, and let me, as usual, some of you who do not know how we do it, I hope this is being streamed simultaneously both on Facebook and on YouTube. So I would please want to know where you're watching me from. If you're watching me from Facebook, I want you to say, hey, Maazi, I'm watching you from Turkey and I'm watching you from Facebook. Or I am watching you on YouTube and I'm watching you from the ground zero, Nigeria, or you might be somewhere else. Okay, so before I continue, as usual, has been my tradition, I want to give shout out to some of you who obviously have been following me and who have been, keeping faith with me. And I have here Ugo, aka T-Bones, Mwagozi, Uche M. Wow, Uche, how are you? How are you in Iceland today? I have Emmanuel Godwin, very much welcome. I have Ugo says, great hearing from you, watching from Abu Dhabi. Oh, Abu Dhabi, everybody is on lockdown. And I have Okoro, Ojiako, and Sagacious. I'm watching through your Facebook link from Europe, watching from Madrid. That's Emmanuel Godwin, also watching from Madrid. So let's get into the point. What is it that, I am looking at this evening? Like I said, this is probably to some of you a controversial, opinion piece, a very thought-provoking indeed, from Femi Akomolafe, and he said, why African should not be angry with China over the maltreatment of our citizens in China. Okay? Why Africans should not be angry over the maltreatment of our siblings. Basically, I will let that run, beneath what I'm, you can see that now. This is basically the guy. He is a Ghanaian based in Ghana, and he writes for the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Okay, so he opines, in his own opinion, he argues that the maltreatment of African residents in southern China, which is the city of Guangzhou, as we all saw last week, that got me intervening in some sort of way, is a poisoning popular attitude to the Chinese, not only across Africa, but also in the global African diaspora. He argues that even though that Beijing has denied any racism or any racial discrimination in the coronavirus-related incidents, and Beijing, as their ambassador to Nigeria has actually done, has pledged to improve its treatment of Africans in the country, that is, not only in Guangzhou, but also in the whole of China. If we look at what this author is saying here, in his argument, he says that, the anger of Africans, or rather the anger of Black Africans, is still settling in with many of us, yourself, most of us watching included, calling for sanctions, including economic boycott of Chinese businesses. We saw in Nigeria, people started, I think in Ogun Ocean, one of the southwest states, angry youth started destroying factories. Femi Akomolafe is an author and a newspaper columnist. He lives in the Netherlands, between Netherlands and Ghana. He shuttles between these two countries. In this anger, in these things happening, in this, let's get Chinese out, you brothers and sisters, what are you doing in China? Come back home, blah, blah, blah. Those anger. This is a man who took a different view. He said, no. I want to take another view. The incident that has happened has called for Africans to deploy strategies instead of emotions in the reaction of this whole incident. Do you agree that we shouldn't react the way we are reacting now? Because in all we are doing, there is no strategy. We are only reacting. People, before I get deeper into what Femi said, let me put this to us, for us to understand what strategy means. Strategy means, some of you who play chess game, you play, you control events, and you control future events. But emotional reaction is, Chinese discriminates against you. Either you get violent, or you tell Chinese to get out of your country, or you pull out your business interest. But strategy is, oh, you have insulted me. You have treated me wrong. What is my strategy? What can I do? What are the plans? What building blocks can I bring together to prevent this from happening in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? That is where strategy comes in. And that is where this argument by Femi makes a lot of sense. Like the a Chinese philosopher, that's Liu Tsung, always argues. He said that the truth is not always beautiful. No, beautiful words, the truth. The truth is not always beautiful, nor beautiful words, the truth. Therefore, in the foregoing, one can argue, in the words of Heraclitus, that men who wish to know about the world must learn about it in its peculiar details. Peculiar details. Therefore, if we want to understand the Chinese, this is almost like a lecture. This is not a time for some of you to just log out or anything. I want you to stay and let us reason this together. At the end of the day, I will give you the opportunity to either ask questions. We learn. This weekend, we're on lockdown. Some of you have 3 weeks extension, some of you 2 weeks extension. So we have the time. So having said this, Femi now continues. He says in his argument that simply by observing nature, our ancestors, when I said our ancestors, some of you don't understand. Our ancestors were wiser than we are today. They were men who came alive, saw nothing that was existing and knew it and gave them names. Our ancestors knew who they were. They understood themselves. Our ancestors, like many old traditionalists, deduced, that means understood, the unity that is firmly embedded in nature. Example abounds where we choose to look, unless which we don't want. Earth is balanced by the code. Day turns into night. Male and female. Visible versus invisible. Wet and dry. Existence versus essence versus existence. Dark and bright. Negative and positive. Male and female. These were the things our ancestors understood by observing, by learning, and by doing some certain things. Through observations, our ancestors understood that the vast cosmos is governed by complementary principle of immutable durability. From this, they further deduced that even the worst catastrophe brings forth profound opportunities and limitless possibilities. Now, the Yoruba people, if we want to go by the example he gave, he said that the Yoruba people associate Ejiwapo, that is the twonness, with a balancing force with which they expect to have an influence on the cosmic order. Hence, their veneration of Ibaji, that is twins, with the hunchback and the albino are considered emissaries of the Oludumare, that is the supreme god of the Yorubas. Now, that is the Yorubas. If you want to come down to the Igbo, you ask yourself, how did our ancestors, who never saw sun, who suddenly came into this world with a sun that had no name, without studying the cosmology of the sun, looked at the sun and said, Anyane onwa. It's deep. They took time to understudy the sun and its characteristics, and they were able to say, Anya anwu, meaning Anyane ya onwa. You think my ancestors were not right? In the midst of a very heavy or a very sunny day, come out and look up, stare there without glasses for a couple of seconds, and you know that the ancestors were wise. The Chinese call it yin and yang. Some philosophers granularly call it dialectical monism or dualistic monism, or ecological dualism. They all mean the same thing, no matter which nomenclature you choose to go by. A few people, rather well-meaning Africans, agreed, we know, and they are offended by the treatment of some Africans in China. Yes, myself, I am aggrieved and I am offended. My being, whatever makes me as Maazi Ezeoke, is offended by that action. And many of us are calling for the expulsion of the Chinese from Africa. Some of you, as you have commented on Facebooks everywhere, are calling for the boycott of the Chinese goods. Femi now argues that he understands the anger, but that he thinks that the call are not only myopic, but that they are also premised on emotional outbursts that are totally devoid of strategic depth. At that point, when I read this, I paused for a moment. I said, whoa. So that anger that you and I exhibited in Femi's worldview is myopic. And I thought to myself, how can this be myopic? I need to understand. I need to read this guy more to understand what he meant. He argues and he further stresses that they appear to be the deployment of emotions when what is called for a strategic responses that are born out of deep introspection and high quality considerations. Again, he goes into one of the Yoruba proverbs that says, crying should not stop us from seeing. Crying should not stop us from seeing. Where is he driving to? Yes, we are crying that the Chinese has insulted us, but that shouldn't stop us from seeing. Wow. Again, new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. In essence, what he's trying to say is that our present anguish Okay, so I think the internet played up a little bit. Sorry for that, break in transmission. Again, he reinforces and argues that our present anguish should not make us blind to our present objective reality, which is that we are so terribly behind the rest of humanity that absolutely no one reckons with us in any geostrategic consideration. Now think about it. The whole world is moving forward. Yet, apart from giving the world raw material, there is nothing that Africa places on the table. And that is what his argument is all about. He argues that the African continent, the mother continent, the African nations are totally absent, totally cut off from any geostrategic consideration. Look at it. We have Nigeria trying to borrow billions from the world, yet the same Nigeria has billions being recovered by, from the world, stolen by their old and thieving ancestors. who stole them dry, took the monies to the Switzerland and to America. How do you reconcile the two? Africa counts for little or nothing in the geo-global scheme of things. However painful that is, but that is the sad truth. You count for nothing because you can get angry all you can. Rather than go into the nasty, trend of shouting yourself hoarse, we should wake up and reorganize and recognize that the world is one large classroom, and that the best we can and should do to ourselves is to try and learn from wherever we can in order to get the best advantages that will aid our yearning, that will aid our yearn for rediscovery, renaissance, and redevelopment, which Maazi Ezeoke has been calling on this channel. We must depart, a total departure from what we have been doing. Africa, the only thing China has that Africans don't have is, that's my view here, is the technological know-how or the intellectual understanding of mechanics. We have the raw materials. They come here, they take raw materials, they go. We go buy them, we bring them back. In Femi's argument, we must abolish such thinking in order for us to move forward. And that is what is holding us back. That's where he argues that we need to get into rediscovery, renaissance, in order for us to develop. Luckily enough, there is no need or reason for us to reinvent the wheel. The wheel has already been invented. All we need to do is to look deeper. One of the former AU Secretary to the United States called last week that the hope of Africa remains the diaspora. That in a state of, I think that was New York, they have more Nigerian doctors than Nigerian as a whole has. And that is not only for Nigeria, that is for many African nations. So at some point, these things, we must begin to rethink our strategic engagement. We might not like it as it sounds in his argument, but the sad reality is that we live in a world where we have two masters from who we learn from. Either we copy it, what the Chinese has been doing, or we steal it. Technology cannot be given. We say technology transfer. No. No one transfers technology. It's either you copy it or you steal it. Take, for instance, you have Chinese smart cars. Smart, German, I think an offshoot of BMW, produced Smart. It wasn't electric then. There is another one called Twingo. What the Chinese did, the Chinese stole the technology, made it look like the Smart, but even gone farther than they have done. And today you have the Chinese version of Smart with electrics. Some of you say Innocent is not an indigenous car. Who cares? As long as he produces that car in that country. The Europeans, they have misled. Europeans has misled us for about 600 years or more. If the truth must be told, the Chinese are coming up as the new sheriff in town. Look at how we beg them, we kneel and we beg them for money. How do you want them to respect you where they give you virtually everything? In Abuja, they built your rail stations and everything is written in Chinese. No one was able to tell them, if you want to build these coaches, they must be done in Nigeria. Rather, we'll just let them build it there, build the heads there, put them in containers and bring them back to you. What do? You couple. The softwares are done there, the hardwares are done there, the tracks are done there. So what do you offer the world? Before we can get anywhere, it is vitally necessary for us to realize an important lesson. The world is not ruled by emotions, and this is what Africans must learn, but by cold and hard facts, frozen facts. What rules the world is facts. As the great leaders and teachers Marcus Garvey said, the world is run on a bluff. Think about it. You argue with me, you think you're superior, you call my bluff. Now tell me, which continent or which country can Africa call their bluff? You cannot call anybody's bluff because you need their military hardware, you need them for your transportation, you need them for your energy generation, you need them for your cars. Nasarawa State Assembly in Nigeria today, this week, spent about ₦500 million buying about 24 Hilux trucks for the 24 members in the state assemblies. Whereas there are plants in Nigeria that can give them equivalent of such. But no, ₦500 million must be stolen. ₦500 million must be taken out of the nation. And how can a people that think in that neo-colonialist way, how can they develop? The brain is already warped, and the brain is probably virtually empty. A very cold fact that we can ignore only at our own peril is that the Chinese did not have it easy. Go get your history book. Read about one of the countries I respect so much, Singapore. How did Singapore get where they are today? They had it so rough with Chinese. Even the Chinese themselves didn't have it that easy. The Chinese simply followed the admonition of one of their greatest leaders, Liu Chu. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward with, whatever way they like. Now he goes on and on and on and on. That was an interesting lead. Sorry. That was an interesting read for me. I found it so astonishing because, when you remove emotion and start thinking strategy, things begin to look and have a different color. The Chinese, if you don't know, were beaten by a parade of colonialists. They were humiliated for centuries. They knew that there was nothing personal in their defeat and occupation. They were simply overwhelmed by people with superior technology and knowledge and means. Their conquerors were simply obeying the evolutionary imperativeness of consuming weaker species in order to stay alive. If you go to the animal kingdom, which the world is, if the lion is hungry and he sees an antelope, there is no emotion. The Chinese recognizes their inferiority, but rather than to scowl and whine, they worked assiduously towards fixing it. They patiently took their time to learn. It took them a greater time and many sacrifices, but they emerged more powerful than their all tormentors combined. Today, as we speak, the Chinese are masters of all the surveys. Everything that they have surveyed, they are the masters. The world combined together cannot confront China behemoth. Were it, just put it this way, were it to be their nature that in no force on earth today can stop them from becoming a hegemon if they so desire, there is no force to stop the Chinese. What the Chinese did not forget, however, but that they did not, that they were a people with a history over 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years of history, they didn't forget it. Again, think. Yet, 5,000 years ago, they were not older than the Mother Earth, the African nation. Suddenly, you have forgotten yours. When we call for the African Renaissance to be the anchor point of where we need to restart again and kickstart, imagine it with technology. Some of you think it's a call for paganism. No, it is a call for self-discovery. What the Chinese did was they saw that the defeat and occupation by foreign forces as accidental, interruption, which can be mastered and conquered. They went to work. They mastered it, then conquered it. They reached for strength for their sage, Confucius, Liu Tzu, Lin Chu, and others. The emergence of Chinese as a great power today teaches us incredible value lessons to those of us in Africa. The main question we face, however, today is, are we prepared to be good students and learn, or are we going to remain eternal whiners? As Femi Adesina of the presidency will say, are you going to remain eternal willers? Whining willers. Huffing and puffing and beating off the chest are good for venting our impotent rage and anger, but how would that help us? It's not going to help us in any way, shape, or form. For the wise man looks into the space and he knows there are no limits to its dimensions. Whichever way we throw it around today, no matter how we look at it, we remained a conquered and oppressed people. Anywhere we go in the world and in Africa, these hard facts and truths must be said in order to hurt us, to spur us to action. That's what it has to be. Despite all the fanciful, appurtenances that we display as emblems of sovereignty. Oh, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a republic, my foot. We are all mere colonial appendages of metropolitan powers. African nations say they are independent, yet they cannot exist without France. They call it the Francophonies. Yet, somewhere else, you call them the British Commonwealth. Which wealth is common? It's only your wealth. Their wealth is not common. People, the brain must be open. That's why I said I want to discuss this article, because I read this piece. I mean, whatever Femi said is something already known by you and I, but it's good sometimes that we remind ourselves about our failures and the challenges thereof. Femi, at some point, he feels he's beating you down. He says one thing very, very instructive. He says, and I quote him, "I am not trying to distress anyone. These are just cold facts." I underlined it. When I read that, I'm saying, "Oh, Femi, you're going to kill someone." But these are facts. I'm not trying to distress anyone. These are just cold facts. The important and urgent thing for us to do as Africans is to accept our sad fate and work towards redeeming ourselves. It's only when we redeem ourselves that China will know that if they touch one African living in China, that African nations can do something. But now, as it is today, there is absolutely nothing you can do. There is absolutely nothing you can do. You can do nothing. And that is the fact that is somewhat, you know, it's a fact. You can't argue with it. We should not fool ourselves into believing that the world will pay any heed to our empty sloganeering. We are just too inconsequential in, Africa is it's inconsequential in the global scheme of things to make our anger count. The most we can do is to protest. If Chinese want, they will continue. The most our siblings can do also is to move out of China. Who cares? The Chinese might say. But we can still revert, and if we start today, we can still revert the trend. It is a sad reality, and it hurts me so much. But we are not only powerless. Our voices also counts for nothing, an absolute zilch. Nothing. The Germans will say null, gar nichts, absolutely nothing. Just saying it so that we start thinking, let's get angry. Continuing to deploy impotent rage might make us feel good and may satisfy our contingency, constituency, but they are not the antidote to what currently ails us. Let us leave sloganeering and empty rhetorics alone and begin to deploy our brains in generating useful ideas. Femi now killed it all by linking it to COVID-19, and they said COVID-19 has revealed the world, the whole wide world that we know it, is the decrepit state of structure and infrastructures. It has enabled the world, the whole world, to see our misrulers plus their friends in the media and academia as they have been hiding with their empty bombast, an African that cannot feed himself, house or clothe itself without foreign assistance. It took the same China to flying equipment and face masks, Jack Ma, whatever it's called, to give you things before you even start. Isn't that a tragedy? The same people chasing you out are the same people you're still depending on. I read it, and he said, no one goes to sleep with the roof of his house on fire. African roof is on fire. A serious issue requires prompt attention. A stitch in time saves 9. Are we going to seize this opportunity offered by this, what the Chinese has done to us, and engage our brain in serious national building efforts, or are we going to pretend that all is well? And he concludes that to revel and to dance to our self-generalized ruler bees. That means, how come these things has befallen Africa suddenly in Lagos? The Chinese watch this. People cannot sleep. People have to wake up to guide, to do amotekun on their own, unpaid. In order for their wives and children to sleep, they need to be awake. Only 2 weeks plus. Only 2 weeks plus. Africa is seen. If this goes for 6 months, as they say in pidgin English parlance in Nigeria, the breeze would have opened Faunyash. Africa is now dying more from hunger and police brutality within this period. As the last count is about 20 people died, whereas Corona has only killed 12. Now, Chinese, do you think they don't have this news in their palms? How can they respect you where the police force of your nation cares nothing about you? 2 days ago, on Wednesday, 2 young men lost their life in Onitsha. What was their crime? One in a field. What happens to arrest? What happens to, even if in the most brutal and barbaric manner of flogging, but a policeman, the gun he uses was bought with your money, the bullet was with your money, cocked a gun, shot a person that he is meant to protect. You do this to yourself and you want others to respect you. In Femi's argument, it is by no means saying that what the Chinese did or are doing is right. No, his argument is that we as Africans must find the antidote. And the antidote to this is not just crying over social media. It calls for us to basically take the back seat, engage our brains, the gray matters in between the skulls, and begin to build. Because if we do not begin to build, the world has left us behind. And so sadly, the world has left us behind. Once more, this is Maazi Ezeoke. Now I can bring in comments and see what you guys are saying. If you have anything that you want to contribute now, I can read your comments. If you have said something before, I didn't read it, now I can go through the comment. Again, let me start with Uche M. He said, Maazi, oh, there is no, okay. Uche M said here, you are right, Maazi, technology aren't transferred, either you copy or steal. Have a look at USA Jam. Exactly, technology is not. Forget sentiment. We deal with facts. We deal with facts here. So what is the solution? The solution is for Africans to engage their brain. It's simple. It's very, very, it's simple as that. Simple. There is no way to put it. Simple. Ugo, aka Bone, said, Maazi, you nailed it. Why on earth should Nigerian government reason, do we speak Chinese, read Chinese? We must fight to get Biafra we stand. Again, it's either we engage our brains and fight, or we all perish. There is no two ways about it. Again, Sagacious Fasciandum says, what's it called? Yes, that is what I'm saying. They go to YouTube and listen to Dr. Arikana Chiboriku, the ambassador to the US. After watching her speech, you will definitely agree with what Maazi Ezeoke is explaining here. Exactly. And I mentioned her speech because I watched it yesterday, where she was interviewed by a lady. The hope of the current state of Africa lies within her diaspora. Even the thieves, Ndioshi, the Olushis, the Barraus, the Damborobas that we have now, they know it. That's why they always want to block the diasporans from getting an impact. There is no structure. During Goodluck Jonathan time, they said they want to have a diaspora village to encourage people to. How can someone who have lived in abroad for about 10, 20, 30 years, the light has never blinked for one day, you want that person to come down with his children and everything to pure darkness? The people we have as leaders are evil. Without apology. Evil. When I say evil, I mean it by every sense of the word. They are evil. Because when the people think, when the Chinese come, go to Southwest, they are cutting trees and taking all the logs to China. Go to Ebonyi today, they buy land and take the, what's it called? The limestones there. go to Plateau, go to, Taraba, go to Nasarawa, go to Zamfara. They buy acres of land and they mine the gold illegally. With that mindset, what is freaking wrong with Africans? Why would somebody give you peanut and you forget to engage your brain? I'm angry. Because we must look beyond what the Chinese are doing to our brothers and sisters in China. We cannot fix what the Chinese are doing to us in China if we don't fix what is happening in the African mother continent. And part of how to fix it is that you must know who you are. And to know whom you are, you must go back to the ways of the ancestors that knew it and they knew it and then understood it. Again, Uche M said, let me read your comment. We don't have leaders, we have rulers who are busy sharing money and keep on borrowing money from international communities, refuse to. Listen, as of today, oil price is $17.9. I wish oil can get to zero. Even if I'm God, I want Nigerian oil to dry. Let us all die here. Let us all die here. If we cannot engage here, let us all die. Countries that do the things they do don't have oil. What does China have? What does China have? China took their time, trained engineers, they engaged their number 6, the production hub of the whole world. I have a caller here. Hello, who is calling? Where are you calling from? You're calling from Madrid, Chizoba. What's your contribution?
My contribution to the problem we are facing now from the Chinese is the problem is from our leaders. If you can watch since that day, this problem the issue come up, none of our leaders said anything, made any speech, or even talk against what is happening in China. All of them they keep quiet. The reason they keep quiet is Chinese is now the master of Africa. Our leaders, they cannot think, they cannot reason. Now China is the only way they run to go and get money that they will share. So if they comment over the issue, they will now lose that money they used to share. This is the main problem. A beggar has no choice. The main issue now is that this problem that is what is happening in Africa is if we can find solution to kick all those people, take those set of people that is ruling Africa, all of them. If you watch what the ambassador of the United States, that woman, what she said, none of African leaders can say that. Well, let's to kick all of them out, because if you didn't do that, we must continue. Let me tell you, here in Europe, that's what happened in China. Europe have seen it. They have seen it. Now they find out that nobody can talk for us. Nobody can fight for us. So this is exactly what is going to Africa is going to face from other continents. It's going to happen. Well, because the one that happened now, nobody can stand up. Even our foreign minister, that is it Onyama or what? If you listen to his interview in Channel TV, if you listen, only what you hear is and he cannot say anything. Because Innocent is producing a car, and our government is buying cars with 500 million. House of Representatives, they refuse to use Innocent car. Why? This is homemade car. Because if they buy that car in Nigeria, they cannot spend enough money. We know the price of the cars. We can go and ask. But the moment they go to Japan and buy Toyota Lexus, $5,000. You cannot say no. This is the reason. Everything about Africa is how they embezzle money. They never think good about Africa. I'm telling you, Maazi.
Yeah, thank you very much for your contribution. So, as it is, as he has said, you see, the problem is beyond one African nation. But sadly, Nigeria, being the most populous African nation, was a nation that people probably looked towards providing succor for the rest of Africa and providing leadership and providing guidance. But Nigeria is lying flat. What we have now is a bunch of clueless thieves, without exception, maybe one or two governors in states. If not, from A to Z, maybe one or two. If you leave Nigeria, you go to Benin Republic, Yowa. You go to Zimbabwe, it's in Patako. You go to Cameroon, you go, hey. So where is that hope? African, we must engage our brain. We must have people who are selfless. I have said once here, if we are a serious nation, if not that COVID-19, that other nations shut down their country, Abia, for instance, would have been in England cooling off. But because it's short, and no one is thinking, even the National Assembly, that you have a bunch of do-nothing there, they cannot even come up with a law saying, if you want to be the president of that God-forsaken nation, you should sign undertaking that if you're sick, if your child is sick, if your mom is sick, if your father is sick, no one should get out of that nation. They must all be treated there. As long as you want to be an elected leader there, you must take everything. Your child will not go to private school. Everybody must go to public school. Lock down the whole place and fix it, or we all wipe away. When it gets to that point, it's like people who are thinking. When it gets to that point, that is the only way we might probably lock ourselves in and begin to look ourselves in the face. Gabriel Mohammed, Africans like to talk too much talking without solution. Let's focus on how to create anti-COVID-19, anti-5G network. Let's create something for Western world to respect us a bit. See, Mohammed. If you do not discuss, even the Bible says that iron sharpeneth iron. If you do not discuss to engage your brain, how do you develop? You're talking about 5G. COVID-19 it's hunger. We're not talking about COVID. Hunger is killing you, your people. Your governors cannot even share any common food, nothing. It can be. I saw what Imo State were giving their people, and I shed tears today. Photos. One Indomie, not even one Indomie, 2 cups of rice, 2 cups of beans. And with that level of insanity and insult, you're talking about 5G. Listen, you must crawl before you run. You are not even, a baby is not even able to sit down and hold his or her neck. The baby is just trying to sit down, doing like this. And you're talking of 5G network. Please crawl. Crawl. Sit down first. Crawl before you talk of. I don't know which state you're from. Gabriel Mohammed. It's a combination, probably you're from Plateau or Southern Kaduna. I don't know. In Nasarawa, I said before, a governor spent 500 million naira, $500 million, on 24 cars. 24. And you're talking about COVID-19. Shouldn't we line them up and flog them 34 lashes. How can you engage if people have such level of barbaric mindset? Jesus Christ, this evening, the whole mess is pissing me off. I thank, what's it called? I thank Femi for honestly engaging us this evening that with this fantastic piece from him, because again, honestly, I love what Femi, that's why I said I must use this to discuss with us this evening. I love what he did. In conclusion, Femi said, I repeat his conclusion again. He said, the choice is clear, and the choice is clearly ours. Since one of life's lesson that he took to heart was his late mother's admonition. He mentioned it, supra, which means whatever doesn't kill you should make you stronger. He urged that we seize this opportunity. There is no force like success, and that is why the individual makes all effort to surround himself throughout life with evidence of faith. As of the individual, so should it be for the nation. That is the quote from Marcus Garvey. Finally, let us all put the thinking cap on and begin to generate ideas that will have to liberate us. One of those ideas must be that we must think African. When I listen to Fela Nicola Bokuti, a great legend, a prophet of his time, he came before his time. He sang one of his songs. He says, "By Africa, Viva Africa." And I listened to it. I said, and these men and women that governed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s listened to this guy rather than liaise with him. What they could come up with is to jail him and how to kill him. You can see how how wicked the black man could be sometimes. You want Chinese to respect you, yet your nation cannot respect you. How does that happen? How? People. After studying abroad, they all go back and work on what they have studied abroad. Imperial College teaches how to build fast cars and other machineries. In our own, many of us studied abroad, including myself. But you tell your people that you want to come back, they say, no, don't come. Which is craft, this person, the other one. You see the mentality that is holding us back. You see it? We are in deep trouble. Something must give way. We must create a conducive environment for those who want to come and add something. We must create a conducive environment for them to come. We cannot continue in this way. And this person said, Kayodeke said, Mohammed, you have right of your opinion. However, it is true that people were asked to stay, but there is no electricity. I ask myself, with what do I want power 4G? Exactly what I said to Mohammed. You don't have Gari. Somebody who has not eaten Gari doesn't think of 5G. See, that is the thing. Africa has the most arable land in the whole world. Over 30 million square kilometer of land. China barely has over 9 million. You see why China is coming into Africa. And my people are not thinking. My people are not thinking. You talk about 5G. Not be somebody who don't chop belly food, they talk about telephone. Have you seen people begging money on the internet? Oh, I want to buy data. But person will never chop, they buy data. Sorry, I need to speak in this language. Maybe that's going to drive the message home. Person went down shop with empty stomach, you press phone. You never see us in Nigeria, sometimes they press phone, they do like this. You never see them, they press phone, they take hand, they cover the phone, make the kukuma see what they press. That is poverty-stricken phone. 5G, they work for that kind of phone. And here we are arguing if we develop 5G. Develop motorcycle first. Even they just innocent is building car. Yet the National Assembly cannot be proud to buy a car made in Nigeria. And you want another nation to respect you. Your president takes his presidential jet, goes to London Stansted, leaves a national presidential jet for over 110 days, paying the fees, staying in Queen's Hospital. Yet the same prime minister of the same nation was sick and they treated him in their country. We must begin to engage these people or push them out. Okoro Jr., what is the WhatsApp number again? I don't even know. I got to be honest with you. If you want to come on, hold on, let me invite guests. If you want to come on to make your contribution, you can click on this here. I can bring you in. This is, if you click on that StreamYard.com, blah, 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 you can come in, make sure your camera is on, then I can bring you in so you can join the conversation. So the most part is that, it's the anger sometimes gets me. In as much as I understand, because the more I spoke to the people who were being, please understand my word well, anti-4G. Well, you didn't make your statement. Probably you need to go back and rewrite and rephrase your statement because your statement, sorry, Gabriel Mohammed, was not understood. Probably, I don't know. We are mighty mess in Africa. I mean, I can't agree with you more. We are a very big, mighty. Germans will call it Haufen, riesig, gigantic, massive mess. And think about it. This is what is happening to us in 2020. Just pause for a moment. If we continue in this trial and error without a clear strategy of where we want to be in the next 30 years, where we want to be in the next 50 years and 100 years, and where our children, because we must begin to think now how the world must treat our children and our grandchildren. We must begin now to think about that. Yeah, hello, who is calling and where are you calling from? Okay. Yes, Uche M from Iceland. Yeah, greeting.
Thank you, Maazi. I don't really understand this Gabriel. He's arguing about 5G, whereby we should concentrating on finding a way and solution to tackle our rulers back home.
Okay.
Because,
okay, hold on. I'm bringing someone else to this conversation. Ugoshi. I greet you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. So I have another person on the line. You see, the conversation is getting interesting. I'm beginning to see people's face. So Ugo, go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, brother. I really appreciate what you've been doing. I've been following you. I don't really, yeah. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know. My blood is boiling each time we talk about this whole thing. I think the only solution to this whole thing is a revolution. We need to get these people out of the way because they are endangering our future. They have mortgaged our future. We are the leaders of tomorrow. And if we keep quiet, they will take our future to their grave. So we need to rise up and do something about this whole thing. Get them out of the way, like you said earlier. Because we can't just continue to keep quiet. Somehow I don't really blame the Chinese. Because if our leaders, if they don't treat if they have not sold our future because of their gullible whatever, Chinese won't be insulting us.
If you listened to the submission of Femi, the basis of this evening's discussion, Femi's argument is that we should not blame the Chinese because they are acting on the premise that no one is going to ask questions. And it's true.
Exactly.
And asking question is not only your ambassador calling this ambassador. No, asking question means something strategic. They look at you, you do not count in any geostrategic conversation. If they talk about military powers, hey, look at Boko Haram. We were begging under Goodluck Jonathan. Nigeria was flying to South Africa cash to go and buy weapons. The way you fly with money from Nigeria to Germany to go and buy second-hand car, cash. That is where things that you do nation to nation, but because no one takes you serious, because you count for nothing. Remember, during the 1967 and 1970, what the Biafrans were producing at that time, Nigeria could have built on it and be producing more today. But again, it's not saying having leaders with empty skull. Nobody could look. We had what we call Proda in Enugu. Today there is nothing like Proda. Proda does not exist in the context of anything meaningful in that God-forsaken place. Now, the solution, again, for someone saying that the solution is to divide Nigeria, that means you do not understand the context of what we are talking about. It's not about Nigeria. It is the African continent that houses the people of this skin color. That means, because the moment you have an African continent that works, that would now mean, I'm bringing someone else in, Mark K. So the moment you have something that works, right, you now give the African diaspora and a very critical one, the African Americans, a pride of place, a place to call.
Exactly.
So today, how they do is they breeze in, everyone is telling them, no, be careful, you're going to be kidnapped, you're going to be kidnapped, you're going to be kidnapped. Come on.
So they don't even come to our place. They go to Ghana.
Listen, we are in a gargantuan mess. And the only solution remains, and I think, is for us to begin to have, conversations that will make us angry. Conversation. Yes. This is not time to be painting it, oh, Chinese, you should have done this. No. Conversations that must make us angry. Conversations that must spur us to think. Conversations that must force us to act. And conversations that must force us to hold our leaders to account.
Yeah, but brother, how do we get it across to the platform where those people the so-called people that matters, how do we get it across to the platform where they can listen to us?
No, you think they're not listening, then you're very mistaken. You think they're not listening, you're very mistaken. They are listening. The only thing... Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
For example, like for us living here in abroad, an European will tell you, if you don't like what you're doing, just go home.
Exactly.
Go back to Nigeria.
And
I've had that many times, and sometimes I feel like crying because see back home, because I argue about one guy, I don't know how to put it, damn racist person. And I was arguing about the law of the game because we are into referee issue. So I was telling him, he said, "You're from Africa. Are you going to come here and tell me how the referee are officiating?" You know, I said, "Hello, this is my job." He said, "Go back home."
Okay.
I said to myself,
okay, we have, sorry, hold on. We have another caller. Okechukwu.
Okoye. Okoye Uchechukwu.
Okoye, sorry, my brother. Okoye.
Yeah. Yeah. Good evening, my brother.
Yeah, good evening. So before you continue, let me answer this person.
Okay.
Lady 2K said that Chinese are after their national interest. They have 1.5 billion people to look after. They are the next superpowers. Then I'll ask you, and I'll answer you by this. Do you know the population of Africa? Chinese is 1.4 billion. Africa is 1.2 billion, right? So they are only 300 million greater than us. But where they are, we are not even 100 years near, okay? And they are thinking far ahead, and here we are, all still asleep. So go ahead. So go ahead, Uchechukwu. Okoye.
Okoye, yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening, brother.
Yeah, I'm calling from UAE. Dubai,
you're
precisely.
Calling from, United States,
Arab, yeah. You know, I've been following this show program since you started, since I get the link. You have been giving us a thought of hope, you understand? You have been teaching us, lecturing us, and it's only people that can understand easily that will be able to accept. You said the truth, nothing but the truth, you understand? And for me, as a person, I prefer to hear the truth than to hear the lie, where they will give me millions of naira. I prefer to hear the truth. You see, our problem as blacks lies on us. Our problems as blacks, Nigerians, black Africans, lies on us. We are the problem ourselves. Because you see what is happening to Nigeria today now. You cannot even always blaming the leaders. We know that the leaders are all corrupt. They are all corrupt. The leaders, they are all corrupt. You won't continue blaming the leaders. Ourselves as a human being, do we love ourselves? Do we love the progress of each other? Like I'm from, like I can give you an example. Yeah, when I was in Nigeria, in Anambra State, or down from Njikoka, precisely Njikoka, North, yeah, down. I was engaged in technician work, aluminium work into building. Then I was looking for work. I was in just search of work. When I got a work, do you know when I got a work from a brother? Then the brother was telling me, okay, you should come back the day before tomorrow to collect your money to start up the work. Do you know that my fellow brother from the same community went at the back and told the man that this work you are giving to this person, he's not qualified, he's not a professional. He will use your money, he will squander your money, he will use it and go and smoke off all those kind of nonsense stuff. Then when I came back the other day to collect my money to start up the work, the man started turning me upside down. I should come tomorrow. His son have not sent the money, that I should wait maybe days later. And now I got the information that it was the same brother from the same community where I am that went back behind and destroyed my image. You see that as a black? You see that as an African? You see, so the problem, we should stop blaming our leaders, because we already know that the leaders has already been corrupted. They don't even have interest on us as a citizen. They have only interest of their families to train their children in a higher school, not even in Africa, abroad, Europe, Americas. You see all those things. So we got to fight for ourselves.
Okay. I think, sorry here, let's not veer off a little bit here. What we are talking about here, in as much as I understand your personal experience, I mean, but that has to do with human. What we are talking about here is about collectivism. Collective. We are 1.2 billion. How do we get into a strategic way of thinking to liberate the collective?
Okay. Now I understand.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah. So I understand. I get what the brother is saying. I get where you're coming from about the collective. But I was sitting here thinking, for us to get this thing right collectively as Africans, I think we got to start from somewhere. We got to start from home because, for instance, we are talking about Biafra.
Yes.
Hold on.
Nigeria.
Hold on. I'm bringing someone else in.
Okay.
We have here.
Okay. So we are talking about Biafra. Yeah. So without getting ourselves together, liberating ourselves.
Can you turn down the volume of whatever you're watching me from?
Yes.
I have echo back. I can remove you if you're not.
Okay. So we are talking about.
So okay. So now, if we as a people, if we can get Biafra, if we can pull out of this country, because Nigeria is irredeemable.
Yes.
Whatever effort we are going to make, whatever effort we are making to get Africa liberated, the Fulani Janjaweed, the people who are benefiting from this whole one Nigerian thing, they are going to hold us back from fighting collectively.
Okay, that's fine. Hold on. You've made a point. Let me bring Okoro Junior in. Okoro Junior, your time. Where are you calling from? Introduce yourself, please.
Okay, I'm living here in Florida, Boca Raton, Florida.
Okay, make your point. You're welcome.
So thank you so much for this discussion. Again, I agree with the premise of the author. You know, the whole point he was trying to make. Africa will not get respect if we don't have respect back home.
Yes.
I came here, you know, I've been living here in the United States for close to 14 years now. I finished my high school in Nigeria. My dad lived here for like 30 years. You know, he went back to Nigeria in 2014. The whole point is, the problem with Africa is leadership. Let's bring it home to Nigeria. So, you know, the Igbos fought the civil war, you know, wanted to break away from Nigeria. Then, you know, the Yorubas and the Hausa Fulanis, the whole of them ganged up against the Igbos. You saw the technology that was produced during the war. If we had right-thinking people, what they could have done is, we're sorry we fought this war, but we're trying to build a nation. It's better we stay together. So you guys are going to come in with all the technology you developed during the war to build this nation. We didn't get that from Gowon. Gowon wasn't the leader. He was just beholden to the Fulanis who used him to fight the war, so it wouldn't look as, oh, Muslim is killing Christians. So they brought him as a Christian to prosecute the war. So Nigeria has never had a national leader that could bring things together. And if Nigeria don't get it right, it's going to be hard for Africa to get it right. So how do you do that? You can't have a revolution. I agree with Ugos, you know, talking about revolution. We need a revolution in Africa because we need to get rid of all these stooges. I call all of this Nigerian, all these African leaders stooges because they are beholden to their masters in Europe and now more to China, Asia folk. So But in Nigeria, we can't do a revolution, because now if like the Buhari is on there, if like Nnamdi Kanu is trying to get us to break our will or do something, if someone is leading a revolution and you're from the opposite tribe, then the other people are not going to support you. So that kind of like Nigeria is in a catch-22 right now. So how do you go forward? Because there's no nationalistic tendency, because we have so many nations in Nigeria. So for you to get a nation that will work together for a common purpose, the solution still remains dividing Nigeria up so we have a confederation, because at this current situation we can emerge and challenge any kind of power. That's my own contribution.
Thank you very much, Okoro Jr. Okay, go ahead. Uche M wants to comment on. He's on telephone. Uche M, go ahead.
Somehow I agree with Okoro Jr. to some extent.
Okay.
But we all know that the problem of Nigeria in particular is we from the southeast, we can see what our so-called leaders, what I call the rulers, Anambra, Igbo, see what the state of the roads are. No roads, nothing. And we're talking about, we are trying to blame Buhari. Buhari cannot come into my community and fix roads and to fix school, public school. You see what is happening in Abia State.
Okay.
Abia is no-go area. I remember when I was a kid, Abia used to be the heartbeat of Igbo land. But look at it today. Ajigunle is like paradise compared to Abia today.
Okay.
So, and these people are our brothers that are doing this. So it doesn't matter if we are biafra today, it's the same Igbos that will be ruling, the state. So what we're talking about is general leadership. It doesn't matter the area, general leadership in Africa as a whole.
Okay.
So
I will let Ugo come in here. Ugo doesn't agree with that viewpoint. Ugo.
Yes, thank you, brother. What he said, I agree with what he was saying, but there's a place I disagree with him where he said something about the same leaders. We cannot have the same leaders if we have Biafra tomorrow. They might even be on exile. No, they cannot exist in Biafra.
No.
So that's where you got it wrong.
No, I disagree. Okay, I will disagree with you as well, but I'll come to that. I see Okoro Jr. is wanting to say something. Okay.
Okay. So the whole point is, they call Nigeria a federal republic, right? Folks are trooping to Dubai. You can have a Dubai in, let's say, Port Harcourt or Uyo or Yenegua or whichever, or Asaba or Wari, because most of the monies they get from the Niger, it gets shared across the whole country. When you don't incentivize production, like you said before, we have arable land. The whole of northern Nigeria can feed the whole of Africa, but why are they not farming? Because they have cheap oil money. So that's the whole point.
I think, again here, personally, my opinion, I think we are mixing issues here, and I'll clarify. One, we talk about having a nation, say Biafra, that would cure the whole thing.
No, I didn't say that though.
No. I'm alluding to what Ugo said, and obviously agreeing to, because he didn't agree to what Uche was saying. Now, why I think is not possible is, I would agree with Uche, for instance. Do you know, if you're from Anambra, all of you here, do you know your local government chairman? Can you visit his house without being harassed by police, by military men? A local government chairman. Can he pass you on the road without military police trying to run you over. Why? This person is not from Katsina. Neither is he from Sokoto. It is the mindset that you are nobody, that he is your ruler. And they have acquired so much devilish arsenal, aka money, that even if you, the way the structure is today, you divide. By the way, my good friends and my people of the Niger Delta will say, you've never asked us if we want to be part of this. So that's another discussion for a different day. Definitely. Now you ask yourself, without working on the mindset to understand what governance is, how dare you then, someone, let's agree with, let's just play a game that you now have a republic, call it Biafra. These men, women from your kith and kin, they have acquired this devilish arsenal that will bring them back home. You're going to do elections, right? They have what it takes. They will still be the same people to say, within this party, this is so much amount. Many of us can't even afford their forms. A governorship, they will tell you that the form to contest a governorship is so million. I mean, that is pure definition of insanity. However, if we want to talk about, let's not deviate, hold on. Yeah. Let's not deviate from the point of this discussion, which is a collective approach. A collective, because even if you have another republic, the republic is not going to be within South America, neither is it going to be within Asia. It's still going to be within the mother continent, which is
somebody have to start it. It had to start somewhere. But when you look at Africa right now, which of the countries even ready to do something?
Well, some are doing. Look at Rwanda. Rwanda is a model for us all to look into.
Yeah.
Hold on. But the issue is, what we are saying is, the model Rwanda has shown they've learned their lesson from wars of 1994. Just barely yesterday, because we have a people that have come together that genuinely want to make progress. We fought the war before them, but where are we today? We are basically backwards. The amount that Lagos is too much. The amount River State gets is way higher than
Maazi, I agree with you, but the point is, you have someone in Paul Kagame that is a rational actor. Folks that are leading in Abuja, they're not rational.
Well,
that's the difference.
The thing is, and then I need to address one of us that said the issue of sharing money. You see, in every federating unit, even in the UAE,
money will be shared, definitely.
So even when I mean, I'm just being fair here, because even when the Burj Khalifa was being built, to the point that Dubai was broke, Dubai was bailed out by another. Now that's more or less a federating unit. So the point is, to develop is possible. You know why I say it's possible? If we look at what Donadu did in Rivers under 8 years, look at what Abia, even when we know they all,
looting.
They all did their normal thing, living from my mouth and I go here. Even when we know they did all the things they did, but it gave you a glimpse that if truly we want to make progress, we can. But it's just because I believe because there is no punishment. That's why we will hear, the money. And she's still in London, and no one is seriously talking about bringing her back. That's why your president could leave a nation bleeding for 100 days, over 100 days, and go to London, and we are not angry enough to actually You know, listen, sometimes the whole thing
Maazi,
Okay, I have something to say.
Okay, go on.
sorry,
All this problem, as you said, I agree with Maza. I agree with him, 99%. You understand? The problem we are having within, we don't have to blame people in Asrock. Let's start from home. Let's start from home.
Asorok building the airport in Anambra.
Okay, how many billion? Up to $2 million, $2 billion. Let's start from home. Okay, can you imagine? Do you see what happened in Imo State? People we are saying that they don't need what was the name of their present governor now? They don't need him. Why some people? Why Imo State governor? Hope was Uzodinma, yeah. Some people we are saying we don't need him. Why group of men we are supporting him, protesting for him?
Listen,
Should that supposed to be happening in the land of Biafra land?
No, please. See, do not mix apple with orange, right? When you talk about freedom, before the Western world had democracy has already existed in Igbo land.
Yeah, Igbo land, yeah.
Ọchịchị onye kwuo uche ya. Everybody has the right to support People have right to support Hope Uzodinma. People have right to support Ekperima. It is their right. You cannot listen. If Evans contest a local government chairman, maybe in a name, we don't be surprised he will win. Yeah. We know people that are even deadlier than Evans in the Senate today, and don't you know them? You want me to call them? Why would the people
so the whole point is
the problem remains
within us. Yes.
You and I. You know why? If you and I are not willing, sorry, hold on. So, if you and I are not willing to come up, if you and I are not willing to ask the right questions, I'll give you an example. I mean, I started doing most of the things I do because I drive in the Southeast. I mean, why is it that every time, if I go to Enugu today, I come back 1 month later, it's worse than a month before. I come back 3 months later. But if I go to any country, if I go to Dubai, for instance, the first time I went to Dubai was in 1994. No, sorry, 2004. I go back to Dubai 2 years later. I almost missed my way because, I mean, it's like
moving forward.
Now, I come back to you land in Enugu today, the air condition is working. 2 months again, you come back to the same airport. Everything is like someone is damaged. Now, the question you have to ask, the managing director of the airport, everybody working there, it's still in Enugu. So this concept, because it's not like Castena is working. Your Enugu is being held down. No, Castena is not working. Because, and the thing is, just like they say in Igbo, because held down. That means you cannot develop because, listen, if we tell ourselves the truth, someone told me today, Maazi, do you know how much money they shared in this, whatever they were sharing? And they gave Southeast about 3.3 billion and Northwest got about 112 or whatever. I said, well, are you poor in South? Are you poor in Southeast? And I'm being honest. We are not poor. In my state of Anambra, I cannot remember the last time I saw a mud house. And that's a fact. Because many of us have individually, within our capacities, have demolished people's houses and given them block house. Therefore, it becomes an abnormality for me. And if someone who lives in, if you want to know who is poor, is it the person who lives in a mud house that sleeps on bare wood and someone who lives maybe in a roofed house and sleeps on a foam. We can always argue about that, but the main issue and the main thing of this discussion this evening is that what the Chinese have done to our brothers and sisters in Africa is painful. In China is very, very, very painful, heartbreaking. But the argument of Femi is, in the emotional rigmarole, where is the strategic thinking to stop this from happening?
But Maazi, that's the whole point. So Ugo's he talked about revolution. So in Nigeria, you can't have a nationwide revolution.
You can't. It has to be exceptional.
It has to be regional.
Exactly.
The Southeast folks have to go to Southeast and take care of their stupid leaders in the city.
Listen, the one
the Yorubas have to do their own. That's the whole point.
Do you know?
Have to do this, like the Northerners, the young Northerners that don't want this whole feudalistic system. They have to go and cleanse up the whole entire north. It has to be regional. That's my own submission.
In 1966, we had a revolution, and I keep repeating it for those who are deaf to hear, those who pretend not that they don't know the fact. You had a revolution from someone who at that time claimed, they said he was Igbo, but he was more outside than Igbo. Because if a child is born in London, grew up in London, but has Igbo parentage, he will tell you, I'm a British Nigerian, not Nigerian British. Yes. So you know which one comes from. So if we want to say, you will actually say he's Hausa Igbo. But now in his patriotic and in their patriotic mind, I think that was the most stupidest, and I must put this on record. That coup was a mistake, because you had a point of if you are in authority, you shouldn't have upsurged yourself, because since that time we haven't recovered, because we are in control. Unintelligently, that coup was done. But even without agreeing with the concept of that coup, they had that coup from the paradigm or from the plan of getting a war to be the leader. Yet that coup was considered
an Igbo coup.
Therefore, can you imagine today what happened in Germany? Do you know why we didn't have crisis when Ekuremadu was thrown eggs? Because that was done by Igbos.
Yeah.
Right? Now, imagine for 1 second, the current Senate president goes to Germany, and they will tell you that IPOB threw him eggs.
That's the whole point.
The next day, Bonu, Adamawa, Kaduna, Jigawa, that people living there will sleep the next day.
Oh.
That is the nation that we have become. And that would bring us to the conclusion. Whatever we say, what I believe in, honestly, having sat down, looked at it critically, the solution to the Nigerian issue is to revisit the concept of the Aburia.
That's the whole point.
That's what we are saying.
Yeah.
Do you think
the following, in conclusion, I will say the following. Sorry if you're watching and you do not understand Igbo. For some security reasons, I have to say this in Igbo. Ihe na-ekwu bụ na ihe ndị asa anyị ka anyị nwee regional bụ ọ bụrụ na ị nene Nigeria, o nwere ebe ijele ịma nkwu onye Igbo.
Exactly.
Map Nigeria. The whole of the Igbo nation, the whole of Southeast, there is that Ogun State alone. If I finish, get your internet, search landmass Southeast, compare Ogun State. Ogun State is very way Pekalia Southeast. Nasarawa State, sorry, Niger State. Iweta Niger State, state Iwelu South, Welu South, Welu Southwest, Oburu Nasarawa State, sorry, Oburu Niger State. So anyị ga-amụ anya in America, in London, in Nigeria, in Dubai, ndị Igbo na-azụ afịa. Ebe a ọkwa zuru a bigger market. Anyị kwesịrị, ọ na-ewute m na 1960s ọzọ idiot bụ ndị mmeli ibe. It shouldn't have happened. It was a mistake due tomorrow. But that's what I believe in. Because mgbe bụ anyị nwa na ọchịchị, anyị nwa na akụ, iwe je obsọjia ebe ị nọ in a better position. Iwe nọzie na 1966 to date, anyị kọ na ụmụnne m udo dịla onye ọbụla ekene m.
Udo dịrị gị Maazi.
Thank you, brother, for joining me. And we will keep doing it once in a while. It's good to put names, faces to the names. So once in a while, we will keep doing it. And thank you, everyone that have joined this broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us. And I don't want this to drag for so long. We're on lockdown, so let our internet not finish because of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.